short story book,
Okay.
and it talks about how society has split. And so you have white people on one side of the planet and black people on the other side of the planet, and they don't meet under
Hmm.
penalty of death. They do not
Hmm.
meet.
In this week's episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Karen J. Anderson. Karen is an artist, writer, photographer, publisher, and filmmaker. She has a Master of Arts in New Art Journalism from the School of the Arts Institute in Chicago. She presented her paper, More Than a Color: The Marginalization of African American Beauty, at the 2021 National Conference of Black Political Scientists. Karen uses a variety of methods to uplift, inform, and educate African Americans and people of color.
Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, thank you for coming on to the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I am a writer, artist, filmmaker, podcaster, photographer. I do lots of things, but mainly I'm a storyteller. I love to tell the stories, and the stories I am focused on right now are the things that are concerned with African American history. Because for so
Awesome.
long, our history has been hidden or not told to us. And I think we can find encouragement, especially during times like now, if we see some of the things that our people, their ancestors before us went through and they made it through, it's going to encourage us to make it through too, or
I
also.
agree. I agree. I agree. So, you have so many different talents. What inspired you to establish Up Creative Media, and how has the company's mission evolved since its inception?
You know what? It has changed so much. When I first started in 2010, I was basically doing photography because I
Mhm.
loved being able to tell a story with an image. Being able to take a picture and then just have that image sit and say something. And then I started writing books. And it was like, let's grow this a little bit more and a little bit more and this more. And then finally I decided to make films. And so
Wow.
just in all of that process of, okay, now the image needs to move and the story needs to happen and blah, and just being able to tell all of those things at one time and just having something to say, I
Yeah.
have something to say, and to be able to say it in one of those mediums.
That's amazing. I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into that. The
Sure.
learning curve,
Oh,
it
big.
had to be something on that. How did you manage all of that in the learning curve? Because to jump from photography to film, that's a big jump, right?
Well, the funny thing is, I have a degree in film production. The photography
Okay,
was the
okay.
actual learning curve because I did not start in photography. I taught
Okay,
myself
okay.
how to do photography.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then and then it was so funny, and then probably a few years after I'd started the photography business, I got into a I got into
Mhm.
this graphic program. I was like, I'm going to learn how to do this. And one of the prerequisites for that graphic program is I had to take a film photography class.
Wow.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I had to learn how
Okay.
to develop pictures and all. It was
Oh,
just
wow.
like, oh my,
Oh,
my. But
wow.
I wanted to make sure that, even though I have now had that experience, I started before I knew how to do any of that. And it
That's
was just one of
amazing.
those things saying, you know what, I think I want to do this.
I love that. I love that so much. And that just goes to show folks that you can pick up things at
Yes.
any point in life. You know what I mean? Because some people are
Yes.
like, how did you do podcasting? I taught myself too. I'm big on teaching myself. If it's something I want to do, the best way to do it is to just do
Just
it,
do
right?
it,
Like,
right? Just go out there and do that thing.
yeah,
But that
yeah.
was me, and that's where it started. I started with the photography and just learning as much as I could about taking photos and being able to tell a story through it,
Yeah.
and then it would grow. And then I would be like, "Oh, well, let me do this too. I can do
That's
photography
awesome.
and I can do this. Well, I can do photography and I
Yeah.
can do this." And then all of a sudden I have all these plates I'm juggling. You know how like the plates are on the spinning top
Oh
and you
yeah.
got to keep all the spinning going. Okay, 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 let's do it. Let's do it.
That's awesome. 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 So you've worked as an artist, a writer, photographer, publisher, and filmmaker. Okay. Can
Hmm.
you share how your journey across all these mediums have shaped your storytelling approach?
Well, it does because each medium has the thing that it's really good at. And
Yeah.
so being able to take that and apply it in another medium is like, okay. Like one of the things that I had learned, especially when I started doing like short films and things like that, is like because you would see something, but you want to convey more than just the sound, right? Yet
Yeah.
you want to convey more than what you see. So then I started trying to make things. What does it sound like? What is it sounding like? What are they
Mhm.
smelling in this scene? And so just conveying all of those senses in a film. And I was like, well, you know what? I need to do that in the books too. The books, when I'm writing the book, the person needs to know what the smell is that's going on. They need to know what this character's smelling, what they're surrounded by, what you know what I'm saying? And so just taking
Yeah.
all of those senses and putting them in everything that I could.
That's amazing. I mean, that's such a talent. So, how do you, does one actually have more precedence than the other to you when you're
Well,
using the mediums?
well, one of the things that I had started, and this was about, especially when you're like telling stories and you put things out
Yeah.
there and you don't want like people to steal your stuff, or you be like, I did that
Yeah.
first. I one Most of my stories will start out as a book or a short story, especially
Ah,
if it's
okay.
going to go to film. And I will make the book and copyright it. And so then after I've, written it in sort of like a novel form or
Yeah.
a print form, then I'll take it and maybe write a script and then take the script and produce it. And so
Okay.
that way I'm building on the story, but it's still my story. We know it's something that I created.
That's
So that
smart.
it's like, and it happens over time. So it's not, and that might be the struggle for some people because it does happen over time. Because like when you're writing the story out and you're making a novel, that takes time. And once you get all of that done, and then you start doing the script for it, that again takes time, and you get it out, and you kind of go through these processes of
Yeah.
just making things happen. But for me, it was more of a, okay, I own this. You see, I own it. I've done this like two or three times. I've done it. Wait a minute, I got it in a book. I got it in a picture. I got it in a movie. I got it. It's mine.
I love that. Yeah, actually, that's interesting that that you're sharing that process because that's something that I may want to adventure to in the future. So I love
Yes.
that you're sharing that process because I can see how starting maybe with the film first might be a little, you know what I mean, without
Yeah.
that whole copywriting. So I
Well,
love that
and the
there's a
thing is, you can
flow to it.
copyright the film too.
I know,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
love how you have that because it just shows at so many different levels, hey, this was my work. Because you're absolutely
Yes.
right. That's something that's huge that a lot of folks may not want to venture into certain areas because they're like, well, what if they steal it? But it's like you got to get it out there too,
But you know
right?
what?
So,
Some people don't even think about if they steal it. I have to tell people every day because people come to me and go, I've got this idea and I want to do blah, 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 blah. And I'm like,
mm.
stop telling everybody your idea. Stop telling everybody your idea. Because
Oh,
one
okay.
of the places, like, I work at a TV station. And so people are
Yeah.
always coming in going, I want to do this. I have this idea and I can't wait. And it's going to be a great reality program. And I was like, that is a good thing, but you need to stop telling everybody. I think in like 2023, I had 10 different people come through with the same idea. And I was like, somebody's been dealing this idea. And it was so funny because around
Yeah.
October, one girl actually had funding for it. And I was like,
Oh.
she had a sponsor and she was funded and she was about to go, put it on one of those networks. And I was like, somebody gonna be mad. But I told them to shut up. But oh well.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, stay tuned in the future, right? Because you know who the
Right,
folks are.
right, right. You look up and be like, oh, somebody done put my show on the air.
Oh, that would hurt
Man.
my soul if that happened. But I tell people all the time, build in silence. Build in silence. Yeah. So, yeah. That's a good warning. Cautionary tale.
Yes, it is.
Oh man. So can you walk us through your creative process, like when you start a new project, whether it's a
Sure.
film, a book, or a presentation?
And this has evolved over time.
Oh,
But one
okay.
of the
Okay.
things that I have started doing is I write myself out sort of like um a little thing defining the project. And so I
Oh,
will give it
okay.
a log line, even if it's a book. I'm going to give it a log line to say this is the story. I'll do a summary of it, define who the main characters are. But the two most important things that I will do is I will define who the audience is, who I'm trying to reach with this particular project, who I
Yes.
think will be
Okay.
interested in it, and what is the goal of the project. I have a lot of people, and this is a question that stumps almost everybody I teach. I was like, they come in and they've got these great ideas for the show. So I'm like, what's your goal with it? I mean, I know you want to make it, but what's the goal of making it? Is the goal just to make it?
Mm.
I mean, do you want somebody to listen to it? Do you need people to react to it? How many people do you need to listen to it? And so just kind of going through that process for myself, saying, okay, this is the goal for this, and this is, hopefully the audience I hope to reach.
Got it. Okay. So my background is market research. So that almost to me sounds more like a customer persona or
Yep.
um like a client avatar. Does that make sense? You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
but I
that's
mean,
oh,
because the
okay.
thing is, as you're writing it, and especially when you're knocking it out and you're writing it, you're thinking about, okay, who am I trying to reach? Because the thing is, if you're trying to reach somebody, if your audience is, 18 to 35, you're going to say things differently than you would if your audience
That's
is
true.
50 plus.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
There's going to be some things you can get away with saying, some things you can't. And so, who are you trying to reach with this story?
Got it. Do you use when you're creating like your kind of like your flow for the project, do you use any like software like what's that one? Like Notion or Asana or whatever? Do you use any
No.
or you
I
just
mean, I
handwrite?
probably should. It would probably go
Okay.
quicker. But no, I don't. Most of my stuff
Okay.
is just very old school. Because most of the times I will have sort of like a basic story that I know I want to tell. And it's
Okay.
so much of, I've got the bones of it. It's adding the meat and all of the other things that go around it. And so
Okay.
it's mainly looking at that outline and saying,
Okay.
okay, what am I going to do with this? And
Okay.
what I think is going to be my best way to reach my audience, or how I want to get there. Like right now, I'm working on a series that I want to do, a web series, and it's like just trying to break it down and determine, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I, I'm outlining right now, uh,
Hmm.
making the big chunks, saying, okay, I could do this and this and this and this and this. And is that really going to accomplish the message that I want to tell?
Okay. Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? But
No,
no,
it does. It does. But I in the future you may want to try some of those software that I just mentioned. It could make it
right?
a little bit easier because
It could.
yeah, yeah, definitely. No, it makes perfect sense. It yeah, it makes perfect sense. Um, okay, so this next question, again, I researched you thoroughly,
Go
just to
ahead
let
on,
the
girl.
just to let the audience know. I had the pleasure of meeting Karen at one of her presentations that she gave, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But it was More Than a Color, right?
Hmm.
I think
Yes.
the title, and it was just absolutely amazing. And so I knew I needed to bring her onto the show. As I was researching, because y'all know I research my guests, I saw that you created a short film called 14 to Fate. And it explores two different societies coming together under dire circumstances. And man, I saw like the preview for that. If that did not, that resonates so much with what's going on in this current climate. Like, I don't know if you like foresaw that or what, but what message did you aim to convey through this narrative? Because,
And okay, this is funny, and it 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 speaks right now. But back when I
yes.
originally made it, it didn't speak. People were like, "Oh heck no, we're not getting
Whoa.
into that." Whoa. But
Okay.
the originally this starts it is a short story in one of my books. It's in my short story book,
Okay.
and it talks about how society has split. And so you have white people on one side of the planet and black people on the other side of the planet, and they don't meet under
Mhm.
penalty of death. They do not
Mhm.
meet. And so you have these two different societies. But of course, what happens in these two different societies, there are needs that are not being met because we don't always see the things that we bring to the other side, and the other side don't always appreciate what is being
Mhm.
given. And so, and
Mhm.
at this particular point in the story, there is a need that needs to be met, and these people decide to meet secretly under penalty of death to try and bring those two things together. But it has been years, I mean, like thousands of years, that they've never seen each other. And so the big
Man.
ha for this moment was like, oh my God, it's a real black person. It's a real white person. And so it's just kind of going through those moments of what it's
Uh,
like to see. But yeah, when I originally put this, baby, didn't nobody want to talk about this. They were like, oh gosh, no, that's impossible. Oh, and right now
wow.
it is like speaking to people.
Man, like I said, I want to see it. I saw the preview. I said, I'm going to need to see this again. On my list, I just said that is who, because that really was, I mean, it speaks to today. So
It
what was the
does.
message that you were trying to convey though? Was it trying to, hey, we need to get together? Like you answered a little bit of it, but I want to dig into that just a little bit more.
Well, I think it breaks down to, and right now I haven't found. I've been entering this thing in festival for years, and nobody's ever said no. I mean, nobody's ever said yes. And so maybe one
Really?
day some people will get to see it. But
Oh,
it's these two folks, these two sets of folks trying to decide, do they trust each other? And that's all I can tell you, because
no, no,
otherwise
no.
I'm gonna give it away.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
And I think that's just a 6 minute. It's a 6 minute film,
Okay, this may be your year because I don't
right?
understand
Right?
how that has not been entered.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm mind
No,
blown on
well, you
that.
know what? Because of the controversy of the story, most people are not gonna, that before what just happened, folks would have been like, "Oh, that's no, that would never happen. Whatever. Watch, watch. If we
Yeah.
could split this planet up right now, we would let them have whatever. You know what? Bye,
Yeah.
bye, bye. Y'all going on over there and do whatever y'all want."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I got my fingers crossed because that I thought that was amazing from what I saw. So anyway, how we met. You've been presenting More Than a Color at various venues. Can you elaborate on the core themes of this presentation and its significance during Black History Month?
You know what? It's really funny because this came about when I was in graduate school. I went to graduate school
Mm,
at the School of the Art Institute. And it was a space and a place where I first began to learn more about African American history. It is so
mhm.
funny moving from the South. You're like, wait, that's a thing. What? Hold on. And I would be like calling, I'm going, have you ever heard of this person? Did you know that we did this? And
Yeah.
so it became a thing for me to say, I need to tell these stories because a lot of people just don't understand or
Yeah.
know what we've been through. And my most favorite part was when I talk about the marginalization of African American or African beauty, and
Yeah.
how just throughout history, um, people of color have been looked down upon because of the color of their skin, and they've not been told that they're beautiful. Matter of fact, they've been told
Mhm.
completely the opposite, that you are not attractive and you should not even try. And the fact that they actually have legislated how we look. I mean, I mean, as rough as they have treated Asian and Latino people, there are no laws in the book that determine what your hair can look like, what kind
Yeah.
of clothes you can wear. You know what I'm saying? But the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about us as a people is we have overcome that. I
It's true.
mean, because
It's
we
true.
are people who can look at each other, and you know what? You don't have to be some skinny little girl who's 6 feet tall. Folks, you could be 4 feet tall, 500 pounds. Folks be like, "Girl, you sure is beautiful. You got the best
Yeah.
smile," and that is something I think that comes from a space where nobody thinks you're beautiful. You know what? We're gonna tell ourselves we're beautiful, and we're gonna
Exactly.
decide what beauty is. And so
Exactly.
being able to tell those stories,
Mhm.
especially how they overcame things. I love the story of how the French colonists were like, they were so, I was thinking the African women and the French colonists figured out how to free themselves. And of course, they were business owners. So they were not only freeing themselves,
Mm.
but they were making a lot of money. And I was thinking, you know what? Those are the stories they don't want us to know, because once we free ourselves and then we continue to make money off of them, they will hate that, because you know what? They'll be sitting down there in poverty going, well, that's not fair. How are they doing that and we're not doing this?
Exactly. Exactly, exactly. I There were just so many stories that you shared. Folks, if you get a chance to go see Karen at one of her presentations, totally go see it, because there is a lot that I learned. And the part that you were talking about with the French, that the part that impacted me the most was the fact that they didn't want them to show their hair, right?
Yes,
So they
yes,
wanted them. So as an act of defiance, as we always do, they made the beautiful, like, head wraps. I was just like,
yes,
"Oh my goodness," because I love art, and I often wondered, how did they, in all of the pictures, they were pictured with head wraps, and that's
yes,
probably why. I didn't know
yes.
that.
Yes.
Didn't
And so we
know
said, okay, we'll
that.
put a head wrap on, but you're gonna hate it because you're gonna like our head wraps better than you like your own hair. And what?
Yeah,
And the
that was
beautiful thing is we pass things down and we don't even know where it come from. We just keep
that's true.
doing stuff because that's what our people did. I was thinking we all been wearing head wraps and all kinds
I
of things for
know.
years. Had no clue.
Had
No
no
clue.
clue. No clue, no clue, which is a perfect segue into my next question. So, how do you envision your work contributing to uplifting and educating the African American communities and people of color?
I want to keep telling these stories. As I said, one of the things that
Yeah,
got me when I got here was hearing all of these stories and
yeah,
seeing, especially all of these artists, and going, oh my gosh, you drew this picture
yeah.
like in the 1900s. Of course, you knew what Frederick Douglass looked like. You had his fam. I was like, and so being able to actually pass these stories on and tell them is, I think, is going
Mhm.
to invigorate, help us engage with our history, because you know what, we didn't know our history because they
Yeah.
tried to erase it. And one of the
Mhm.
things, I went to an exhibit today at the Art Institute, the Black Planet one, which is absolutely amazing,
Oh, that's on
because
my list.
one of the things, remember, I chatted about is how our artwork is called artifacts and it's kept in a specific place, and theirs are called classic works of art. Well, one
Yeah.
of the things they've done with this Black Planet piece is they've brought some of those artifacts out and placed them in with some of the pieces of art. And so
Oh,
you get to see them all together in, as art, with the
yeah.
artist's name connected to them and when they drew it, and or when they carved
Okay.
it, and all these kinds of things. And it was just like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing I love about it, and I can tell it was like, there was somebody who looked like us curating, is that there is sound connected with this. And so when you go into this, you'll hear
Oh, okay.
music, you'll hear poetry, you'll hear, voices from our past in this exhibition. And I was like, because that's how we do things. Because it's not just
Mm.
about that thing, it's about the whole culture, it's about every part and piece of it. And so that's what I want my art to do. I want my art to touch on our history. I want folks to understand our stories. and keep our
Mhm.
stories going, because I think we should tell our stories. I don't care if they take our stories out their book, because you know what, they was lying anyway.
Oh,
All the stuff
wow.
they said in the history books was lies. And so
Yeah.
I don't want them telling our stories because they ain't telling the truth.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I fear for what the actual future is going to end up looking like in terms of history being taught. I mean, I saw not too long ago, I think this was maybe a year or two ago, this parent in Texas. Um, it was a black woman, and she said they they didn't want to say slaves, they were laborers. In an actual textbook, she
I
showed,
believe it.
and I was just like, okay, laborer indicates that they were
You're getting
paid. You know
paid.
what I mean? Like you're
Right,
getting
right.
paid, like you happily chose that as a profession. Like, what? I was just like, this is amazing to me how a lot of folks don't want the complete history taught because of how uncomfortable it may make them feel. And as
Hmm.
someone who grew up in a predominantly like white neighborhood when it came to history time, how do you think I felt? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes,
to me, it's fascinating
yes.
how I don't know that whole thing. That's like a whole nother conversation, but it's just it's going to be very interesting to see how history ends up being
Well,
conveyed.
that's why I think we should tell the story, because they've been lying.
Yeah,
Because that was the thing when I got
yeah,
here and I actually started doing the research. I just said, why didn't I look this up before? Why did I trust
yeah,
them and believe? They lied to me. I
yeah,
remember as a kid, they were telling me, the Africans were really dumb. And so we brought them over here and we taught them how to do this. We taught them how to farm and labor. We gave them skills. I
yeah,
believe it. I was dumb. I did not know.
um,
And
yeah,
then when I started doing the research and seeing, you know what? We had cultivated farms for thousands of years and they said, ooh, we
yeah,
need them. And they
yep,
stole people who could actually come and do it. I was like,
yeah,
they lied. They
yeah,
lied like a dog. And
yeah,
I'm like, no. And so I want to tell the real stories. I want to tell the stories about the people who overcame, and I mean overcame well. The people like Turnbow and Madam C.J. Walker, who became millionaires because you
yeah,
know what? And these are women who had like third and fourth grade educations, but all of a
yeah.
sudden, I mean, Annie Turnbow was a chemist. She was able to put things together and create products to sell to women to put on their hair with like a third or fourth grade education.
That's a
And
gift.
so we can way overcome some situations. And I think as people
Mhm.
hear those stories, it's going to encourage them to say, you know what, despite my circumstance right now, I really can get past this and move on and be successful in my own eyes.
So true. So true. Could not have said that any better. Couldn't have said it any better. So, what have been some of the most significant challenges you faced in your multifaceted career, and how have you overcome them? I know you've got stories.
Girl, wait. Okay, so let me tell you funny story. 14 to Fate, that movie, that little short film,
Yeah.
I did that during COVID. And I was living in Chicago, but I didn't have any resources up here. And so I knew people in
What?
Texas. And so I auditioned people via Zoom, which is probably not the best idea. And I did all of the booking for locations and all of this stuff via the internet, and I shot everything in Texas. And so it was like, I
Oh, my
just
mind is
planned a
blown by
time.
that.
I was like, okay, y'all, we're going to meet this weekend at this place, this day at this place, this day at this place. And it was like, fly there, go, get to the location, get all the stuff I need done, shoot the scenes, you know, and I mean, just
Dang.
crazy, crazy as heck.
I am even more impressed
But
by
yeah, I did that one
wow.
through COVID. And
That
so
is crazy. So, how did you well, I have so many questions now from that. So how were you able to even maneuver all of that? Like Just
Y- well, because I understood finding resource. I know how to find resources down there. I know how to find actors. I mean, Texas has
wow.
a website you can post your project. You, can- I remember the first time I posted on that website, I got people from all over the country sending me their headshots and hey, we want to do this. I was thinking, sir, you're in New York. I'm
Oh
not paying for this
wow.
project, and they're like, that's okay. We'll pay our own way. We just want to come do that. Nah, 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 nah. I'm afraid no, I can't do that. I'm not feeling that good about that. But I had no problem getting people and
Wow.
they
Okay.
actually showed up. But matter of fact, I had a friend who decided she wanted to do all the costumes for it. And so not only did they have to show up, they had to go to her and get fitted. And so
Wow.
she would fit everybody so that when I got there, the costumes were ready, the locations were ready. It was like, let's get here, let's do this. And wow, we did it. We did it.
That's amazing. How long did it take to shoot?
I shot it over a weekend.
Wait, you did that movie in 2 days?
It was more like 3. It was probably
What?
3.
But but still, oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Okay, that's wow, that's even more impressive. Because I saw
Oh,
some of the
yes.
preview for that. That's even more impressive. That's amazing.
Yes. Yes.
That is
So that
awesome.
was most definitely a challenge.
Oh wow. Okay, that's really cool. Guys, if you see the preview, you'll see why I'm like in awe
And
of
it
that.
and
That's
it's
just
on my
amazing.
YouTube page. If you go to
Yeah.
Up Creative on YouTube.
Yeah, that is amazing. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, all right, so we are in 2025, right? And
Yes.
I don't know about you, but it feels like it's already been like 5 years. And
Right. Oh my gosh,
I'm
yes.
just like every week, I'm like, you know what? I can only take so much. But anyway,
Exactly.
if you had to choose one word to represent your goals for this year, what would it be and why?
You know what? The word I am holding on to is anticipation.
Ooh,
I
wow.
am
Okay.
anticipating because you know what? I'm going with faith
Okay.
because you know what? The one time, man, God shows up when there's a struggle, when you are totally dependent on Him, and you're like, you know what? I ain't gonna make nothing without you.
Yes.
I know I'm gonna be 100% dependent on Him to get through any and everything, and so I am anticipating to see what is He going to do with this.
Ooh, I love that.
I mean, think about it, and I want to bring you back. And the thing that made me say, "Oh yeah, I'm anticipating." Think about the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not a big football fan, but
Yeah.
I mean, think about this: Lettucey, John Baptiste. I mean, that was amazing opening, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then and then them Eagles just beat the P Waddings out of that dude. I mean, he was sitting there just like,
He didn't know what to do.
Right, right. And
He
I'm
didn't know
thinking,
what to
and
do.
then 47 is sitting there watching all of these successful black people. And I mean, you can't say nothing, right? You just can't say nothing. And then my boy Kendrick get you just like,
I
really?
I have had that on repeat, low
Yes.
key. I
Yes.
have watched that performance. I don't know how many times I've watched it.
And I'm thinking, think
And
about
I
that.
see something new every time.
Only the heavenlies could have brought all of that together at one time and just said, Happy Black History Month, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And we
You
all
said you
like,
got rid of it.
yes, yes. And have it the most watched football ever.
Ever,
It is like
ever, ever. That was a lot.
anticipation to see what he is going to do next with me.
I
I'm
love
excited.
that. I love that. I love that. I might have to co-sign on that one.
Okay, because baby, that Super Bowl was something, and I'm like, I'm not. I seldom ever watched the thing. I was just like, but again, but you know what? I've been listening to that since he released it. I have loved Not Like This and
Yeah.
Luther. Oh my gosh, the fact that he could
Mhm.
just take all of these little old pieces. This man knows how to take pieces of our history and connect a dot
And leave it
that just
together.
takes you somewhere, and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I wish I
Yeah.
could do that. I wish I could do that, but I'll just do what God gave me, okay?
Well, I think you are, I mean, I wouldn't count yourself short. I mean,
Oh,
I'm seeing I'm seeing some of your stuff too.
alright, alright. But yeah,
Uh, just accept it. I know
I
you're
will.
like, I
I
don't know,
am. I got
but
thank you.
yeah.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I accept, I receive that.
Yes, especially like your presentation, like the presentation, and like I said, I do want to see that short film. I can't
I
wait to see that.
understand.
I really do want to see that. So but yeah, no, I love that anticipation. So last but not least, what advice would you have for emerging artists and storytellers who wish to make an impact through their creative endeavors?
Do it. The wonderful thing that I learned at the School of the Art Institute is that you put your work out there. A
Yeah.
lot of people get hung up on the, "Oh, well, it's not that good," or "I wanna change this," or maybe on the next project. Everything I create, good, bad, fair, whatever, I put it out there. I'm
I love
always
that.
entering contests. I'm always entering, my most favorite thing right now is, especially with film festivals, is they all have a podcast category now. And so being able to enter the podcasts
Hmm.
in, um, a thing,
I didn't know that.
Essence has a podcast, category. Make sure you hit that next year or this year. So when they go the
Really?
Essence Film Festival, they have a podcast category. So
Oh,
make
I
sure
didn't
you
know that.
enter that.
I
Um,
know that.
another really cool have you heard of the Black Podcast Awards?
Wait, I
Black
feel like I
Podcast Awards.
might have heard something
Check them
about that.
out
I
because
didn't.
the cool
Okay.
thing about them is that, in one of the links that they sent out, this is why I applied for Essence in last year, is they sent the free link, so I didn't even have to pay. So make sure you hook up with those
Oh,
associations and places because
okay.
sometimes they'll get you free entry into places, and that's the thing because you get to know people. That's the thing about contests, and the other reason why I do contests all the time is you get to see people actually listen to your stuff. Especially entering podcast contests, I can tell when they're listening. I'll enter in one episode and then whoever's, doing it, who's ever judging, they'll go through and listen to everything. And I'm like, woohoo, okay, that contest worked out. At least, maybe I got
Wow.
another listener there. But it's put your work out there. Make sure everybody knows what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because you're telling those stories. It ain't got to be perfect. And most people are waiting for perfection. They're waiting for that one thing that's going to put that work out there. Let people know what you're
Yeah.
doing. Tell those
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. I love the fact that you just said put it out there. It doesn't have to be perfect. Done is better than perfect, right?
Yes,
Because
exactly.
otherwise, you know what? Someone told me, I cannot remember who told me this, but someone said, you know, if it's perfect, you waited too long to start. And I was like, oh, because I have lived quite a bit of my life thinking that, like as a type A, recovering type A perfectionist, um, that took some unlearning for me to think about that. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, that's so true. Like, and it's kind of funny because looking back at some of the older episodes of even this podcast, you can see the
Mhm.
progression. And it's
Mhm.
kind of nice to be in a position to see that. So, yeah, I
Yes.
wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Done is definitely better than perfect.
Yep.
I have thoroughly enjoyed our
I
conversation.
have
I just want to
too.
thank you so much for coming on to the show. If folks want to get in touch with you, how can they go about doing so?
They can do so through, like I have a YouTube page for Up Creative. Also, I'm on Instagram,
Okay.
TikTok, Facebook. Also, I my other face is Black Girl Art.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's GYRLART, Black Girl, GYRLART, Black Girl Art,
Mhm.
and that's also on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm also on Threads and Blue Sky,
Okay.
and so
Fantastic.
social media is a good way to catch up with me.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And all of those sites, in the event that you were not able to catch that, will be on the Hustle and Faith website in the description as well. Karen, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun. I have loved talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise, likewise.